The Harley's engine dies at exactly 6:47 a.m., and Jake Matthews swings his leg over the seat, boots hitting gravel in the empty parking lot of Rosie's diner. Morning light cuts gray and cold across the mountains, and his breath fogs in the October air. He's been riding for 2 hours, needed to clear his head after the supply run went sideways in Bakersfield. And this place has the only decent coffee for 60 miles. The bell above the door chimes as he enters, and the warmth hits him along with the smell of burnt bacon and industrial-strength cleaning solution. 3 truckers occupy the counter, and an old man nurses coffee in the corner booth. Jake takes his usual spot by the window, back to the wall, eyes on the door. Habit. The waitress appears from the kitchen, young, maybe mid-20s. Blonde hair pulled back tight, and she's moving too carefully. That's the first thing he notices. She carries the coffee pot like it weighs 50 pounds. And when she reaches for the cup on his table, her sleeve rides up. The bruise on her wrist is fresh, maybe 2 days old. Finger-shaped marks in purple and yellow. She catches him looking and yanks the sleeve down fast, spilling coffee across the table. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," she stammers, grabbing napkins, hands shaking. "It's fine," Jake says, keeping his voice level, non-threatening. Up close, he sees the makeup caked on her jaw. Professional job, but not professional enough. The concealer doesn't quite match her skin tone, and beneath it, the shadow of another bruise blooms like a storm cloud. She won't meet his eyes. Just coffee. Black. She nods too many times, backs away too quickly, nearly trips over her own feet, returning to the kitchen. Jake watches her disappear through the swinging door, and something cold settles in his gut. He's seen this before. 15 years ago, his sister Emily wore the same careful movements, the same excessive apologies, the same desperate camouflage. He'd asked her once about the bruise on her collarbone. She'd laughed it off, said she was clumsy. Said her boyfriend was wonderful. Said Jake worried too much. 3 months later, she was dead. Jake drinks his coffee slow, watching the waitress through the kitchen window as she moves between orders. Her name tag says Sarah. She's jumping at sounds, flinching when the cook raises his voice about a burned order. Every gesture screams fear. He says nothing, doesn't approach, doesn't ask questions, doesn't make a scene. But he watches, and he remembers the promise he made at Emily's funeral, standing in the rain while they lowered her into the ground. If he ever saw the signs again, he wouldn't wait. He wouldn't be silent, not again. Before I continue the story, please subscribe. I need to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can keep bringing you stories like this every day. It's just one click for you, but it means a lot to me. Thank you. Wednesday morning, Jake's back at 7:15 a.m. Sarah's wearing long sleeves despite the unseasonable warmth. 80 degrees forecasted by noon. When she reaches for the sugar dispenser on the next table, the sleeve pulls tight against her upper arm, and he sees the outline of another bruise. Bigger, hand-sized, like someone grabbed her hard enough to lift her off her feet. She notices him noticing and tugs the fabric down, moves away faster. Friday, he comes at the dinner rush, sits at the counter, this time. Sarah's wearing a turtleneck in October heat, sweat beading at her temples as she works the floor. The older waitress, Rita, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, slides him a water glass and leans in close. "You keep coming back," she says quietly, refilling napkin dispensers beside him. "You see it too." Jake nods once. Rita's mouth forms a hard line. Travis Holbrook, cop's son, sergeant's boy, thinks he owns this town and everything in it. She glances toward Sarah, who's taking an order 3 tables down. She tried leaving once. He found her in 6 hours, put her in the ER, told everyone she fell off her bike. Rita's hands grip the napkin dispenser until her knuckles go white. His daddy made the hospital report disappear. Saturday afternoon, Jake watches through the diner window before he even goes inside. Sarah's at the register, and when she reaches up to adjust the specials board, her collar shifts. The bruise on her collarbone is fresh, angry red fading to purple. Distinct oval shape, Teeth marks. Jake's vision tunnels. He's 22 again, standing in Emily's apartment, watching her explain away the fingerprints on her throat. "He just gets passionate sometimes," she'd said. "He loves me so much it scares him." 2 weeks later, passionate love put her in a coma she never woke from. Jake sits in his truck in the parking lot, engine off, hands on the steering wheel. He can still see Emily's face in the hospital, tubes and machines keeping her body alive after her brain had already left. He'd promised her cold hand he'd never let it happen again. Never stand by, never wait for permission to act. He pulls out his phone, scrolls to a name, hits call. "Chains," he says when his VP answers. "Call a meeting. Tonight. Everyone. What's going on, brother?" Something that should have been done 15 years ago. He starts the engine. Decision made. The hospital room had smelled like bleach and death. Emily's hand was already cold. Machines doing the breathing her body had forgotten how to do. Jake had been 27, sitting in the plastic chair for 16 hours straight. And when the doctor said the words, "brain dead," something inside him shattered clean through. Emily's eyes had opened one last time before they'd sedated her for the final sleep, lucid for maybe 30 seconds, and she'd gripped his hand with surprising strength. "Promise me," she'd whispered, voice ruined from the ventilator tube, "if you ever see someone like me, someone wearing long sleeves in summer, someone apologizing for things that aren't their fault, don't wait, Jake. Don't be polite. Don't respect their choices. Just act." He'd promised through tears he couldn't stop. She'd died 6 hours later. Now, 15 years gone, Jake walks into Rosie's diner at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Sarah's alone, wiping down tables before the breakfast crowd. He sits, waits until she approaches with the coffee pot. "You need help?" he asks directly. No preamble, keeping his voice gentle but firm. Her face goes white beneath the makeup. "I don't know what you—" The bruises, the flinching, the long sleeves in 80-degree heat. Jake leans forward slightly. "I've seen this before. I know what it looks like." Sarah's eyes fill with tears, but she shakes her head violently. "Please don't. Please don't make trouble. He'll know. He always knows when someone notices." "Who will?" "Please." Her voice breaks. "Just drink your coffee and forget you saw anything. I'm handling it. I have a plan." The bell over the door chimes. Sarah's entire body goes rigid, face transforming into a mask of false brightness. The man who walks in is tall, athletic build, wearing a sheriff's department jacket casually over his shoulders, despite not being in uniform. Travis Holbrook moves like he owns the space, and when he sees Jake, his expression hardens. He crosses directly to Sarah, hand clamping possessively on her upper arm, right where Jake knows the bruise sits. She winces, but smiles. "Ready, babe?" Travis asks, but he's staring at Jake, territorial, challenging. Sarah nods quickly, abandons her cleaning supplies. Travis steers her toward the door, and just before leaving, he looks back at Jake one more time. The message is clear. Mine. Stay away. Jake watches them through the window, watches Travis's hand move to the back of Sarah's neck, controlling, proprietary. His jaw clenches hard enough, his teeth ache. He drops a 20 on the table for a cup of coffee he didn't drink and walks out to his bike. By the time he reaches the Iron Wolves clubhouse 40 minutes later, his decision is concrete. He pulls out his phone, texts the group chat. Emergency meeting. 1 hour. Mandatory. No exceptions. Chains responds first. What's the situation? Jake types back, keeping a promise. 12 men sit around the scarred wooden table in the clubhouse back room when Jake walks in at 8:47 p.m. They range from Danny Ghost Chen, 26 and tech-savvy, to Bull Morrison, 53 with more scar tissue than original skin. Each one carries their own demons, their own reasons for wearing the Iron Wolves patch. Jake stands at the head of the table, no preamble. There's a girl, Sarah Bennett, 24, waitress at Rosie's. Her boyfriend is putting her in the ground one bruise at a time, and his daddy is Sergeant Dale Holbrook. The room erupts. You want us to go after a cop's kid? Tommy, wrench, Patterson demands, already shaking his head. That's heat we don't need, brother. They'll bury us in violations, shut us down. She's got resources, another voice adds. Shelters, hotlines, lawyers. Not our problem. Jake's voice cuts through like a blade. Our code says we protect our own, and we protect the defenseless. We're not criminals hiding behind these patches. We're brothers who stand for something. He pauses, lets the words settle. I had a sister, Emily. She died because I waited for her to ask for help. Because I was respectful. Because I didn't make it my problem. The silence is heavy. Marcus Chains Rodriguez stands, 6'4" of former Marine Corps muscle and loyalty. I got 2 daughters, he says quietly. They're 8 and 10 right now. I teach them to be strong, to fight back, to use their voices. But someday, they might meet someone who takes that voice away. And when that happens, I hope to God there's someone like us who doesn't wait for permission. He looks around the table. We've all got sisters, daughters, mothers. We've all seen what cowards do when nobody stops them. Jake's asking us to be who we needed when we were powerless. Bull speaks next, voice gravelly from 2 decades of cigarettes. Sergeant Holbrook's been covering for his son for years. I heard stories. Girls who pressed charges and suddenly charges disappeared. We do this. We're not just saving one girl. We're telling this town that badge doesn't make you untouchable. Vote, Jake says, all in favor of protecting Sarah Bennett by any legal means necessary. 12 hands rise. Every single one. Chains pulls out a notebook. We need surveillance, documentation, witnesses. Ghost, you handle tech. Wrench, you and Tiny watch her apartment. Rotating shifts. We document every time Travis shows up, every time she leaves with new marks. Jake nods. We move careful, but we move fast. Women like Sarah don't have the luxury of time. 3 days of surveillance. Wrench and Tiny rotate shifts outside Sarah's apartment building, a rundown complex on the east side, where the streetlights flicker and die. Ghost installs motion-activated cameras on the telephone pole across the street. Feeds streaming to his laptop in real time. They document Travis arriving Thursday night at 9:34 p.m., leaving Friday morning at 6:15 a.m. Sarah emerges 20 minutes later, moving stiff, wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Saturday, Travis shows up drunk at 11:47 p.m., pounding on her door until she lets him in. They hear shouting through the thin walls, but nothing actionable, nothing that gives them legal grounds to intervene. Sunday is quiet. Too quiet. Monday morning, Jake's phone rings at 6:52 a.m. Rita's voice is sharp with panic. She didn't come in. Sarah always comes in. She's never late. She's terrified of being late. She called, said she fell down the stairs, said she needed a few days. Jake's already moving toward his bike. What did she sound like? Wrong. Her voice was wrong, Jake, like she was reading from a script with a gun to her head. He's on the road in 90 seconds. Phone wedged between his shoulder and ear, pulling up the address Ghost sent 3 days ago. The apartment complex looks worse in daylight, paint peeling, rusted railings, a place people go when they've run out of better options. Travis's truck sits in the parking lot, aggressive tires and a thin blue line sticker across the back window. Jake's bike rumbles to a stop 2 buildings over, engine dying into silence. That's when he hears it. Shouting. Male voice, rage-filled, words indistinct but tone unmistakable. Travis. Then a crash, glass breaking, the sound of something heavy hitting a wall. Or someone. Jake's hands grip the handlebars until his knuckles go white, every muscle in his body coiled tight. He sees Emily's apartment again, hears the same sounds he ignored because she'd asked him not to interfere, because he'd respected her choices right up until those choices killed her. Another crash. A woman's cry, cut off abruptly. Jake's phone is in his hand before conscious thought catches up. He pulls up the group chat, types 4 words. Brothers, gear up. Now. Chains responds in 10 seconds. Location? Jake sends the address, adds, "This ends today." His phone lights up with confirmations. Ghost. En route, 8 minutes. Wrench. Coming from the south, 6 minutes. Bull. Right behind you, President. 12 messages in 30 seconds. 12 brothers mobilizing. Jake stares at Sarah's apartment door, second floor, corner unit. The shouting has stopped, which somehow feels worse than the noise. He counts his heartbeats, counts the seconds until his family arrives, and makes a promise to the ghost of his sister. Not this time. This time, he doesn't wait. The first bike arrives at 7:14 a.m. Chains, followed by Ghost 30 seconds later, laptop bag over his shoulder. They keep coming, engines rumbling low, parking strategically around the complex. No formation, no obvious gathering, just men arriving separately at the same destination. By 7:23 a.m., all 12 stand in the alley behind Sarah's building. Jake keeps it brief. Non-violent extraction, if possible. Sarah comes out safe. That's the only objective that matters. We document everything. Multiple angles, audio and video. This goes sideways. We need evidence we acted in her defense. He looks each man in the eye. Travis Holbrook is a civilian, not a combatant. We use minimum necessary force, but if he puts hands on her while we're standing there, all bets are off. Ghost already has his laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. Security system is 20 years old, practically begging to be compromised. Cameras are looped as of now. We've got a 30-minute window before anyone notices the repeat footage. Jake assigns positions. Wrench and Tiny. Cover the back exit. Bull and Hawk. Front entrance. Ghost. You're filming from the vehicle. 3 angles minimum. Chains. You're with me at the door. He checks his watch. Everyone's phone on record. Witnesses ready. If cops show up, we comply completely. But those cameras keep rolling. They move into position like a military operation. No wasted motion. No unnecessary talk. Jake and Chains climb the exterior stairs to the second floor, boots heavy on metal. The other wolves fade into strategic positions, visible but not threatening. Witnesses more than enforcers. Jake stands before apartment 2C. Sarah's number hanging crooked on the door. He can hear movement inside. Television playing too loud, probably covering sounds. Chains positions himself to the side, ready to move fast if the door opens wrong. Jake raises his fist, knocks 3 times. Firm, authoritative, the knock of someone who won't be ignored. Footsteps approach, heavy, male. A pause at the door, probably looking through the peephole. Then locks clicking, chains sliding, door swinging inward. Travis Holbrook stands there, 6'1", athletic build, wearing sweatpants and a wife-beater stained with something dark. His eyes narrow when he sees Jake, then widen slightly, taking in Chains's bulk behind him. "The hell do you want?" Travis's voice carries the belligerence of someone who's never faced real consequences. Jake looks past him, into the apartment. Sarah sits on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, fresh blood on her lip, holding her ribs like breathing hurts. Her eyes meet his, terror and hope warring in her expression. "We're here for Sarah," Jake says, voice level and final as a judge's gavel. Travis blocks the doorway with his body, and the smell of whiskey rolls off him in waves. It's 7:30 inches the morning, and he's already drunk, which makes him more dangerous, more unpredictable. His eyes are red-rimmed, bloodshot, and there's fresh blood on his knuckles. "This is my home, my property. Get the hell off my doorstep before I call the cops." Jake doesn't move, doesn't blink. "Call them." Behind Travis, Sarah shifts on the couch, and the ice pack she's holding against her face slides away for a moment. Her left eye is swelling shut, lips split in 2 places, and she's cradling her left side like her ribs are cracked. The coffee table is overturned, glass scattered across the floor. Picture frame smashed against the wall. Jake's jaw tightens. "She's leaving with us!" Travis laughs, sharp and mean. The hell she is. Sarah, tell these clowns you're fine. Sarah opens her mouth, closes it. No sound comes out. Travis pulls his phone from his pocket, brandishes it like a weapon. My dad's the sergeant of this county. One call, and you bikers are going down for trespassing, harassment, maybe assault if I feel creative about how I tell the story. Jake takes one step forward, close enough that Travis has to look up slightly to meet his eyes. I know exactly who your daddy is. Dale Holbrook. 26 years on the force. Good reputation. Decorated officer. His voice drops lower, harder. Also, the man who's been covering up his son's violence for the better part of a decade. We've done our homework, Travis. Something flickers in Travis's expression. Uncertainty. Fear trying to hide behind bravado. Sarah stands, wobbling slightly, one hand pressed to her ribs. She moves toward the door, toward them, and Travis whips around, rage flooding back. Sit down, Sarah. We're not done talking. She freezes. I need... Sit. Down. Jake watches her face, watches the war happening behind her eyes. Part of her wants rescue, wants out, wants to run through that door and never look back. But another part, the part that's been beaten down for 2 years, the part that survived by being compliant. That part is screaming at her that resistance means pain. Sarah, Jake says quietly, drawing her attention back to him. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Not of him. Not while we're here. Travis's hand shoots out, grabs her arm, yanks her backward. Wrong move. Jake doesn't look at Travis anymore. His eyes lock on Sarah's. And when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of 15 years of regret. My sister's name was Emily. She was 22 when her boyfriend put her in the hospital for the last time. Sarah's breath catches. She wore long sleeves in summer. She apologized for things that weren't her fault. She made excuses for bruises, for broken bones, for why she couldn't leave. Jake's hands are steady at his sides, but his voice cracks just slightly. She died with tubes down her throat and machines breathing for her because I waited. Because I respected her choices. Because I let her handle it her way right up until there was no her left to handle anything. Travis shifts uncomfortably. Man, this is none of your business. She made me promise something before she died. Jake continues, never breaking eye contact with Sarah. She said if I ever saw someone like her, someone trapped, someone afraid, I shouldn't wait for permission. I shouldn't be polite. I should just act. His voice goes quiet, intense. I'm here to keep that promise. Right now. Today. You walk out that door with us. You're safe. You stay, and I can't protect you from what comes next. Tears spill down Sarah's face, cutting through the blood and makeup. Her whole body trembles. I don't know if I can. Yes, you can, Jake says. Travis's face twists with fury. His hand clamps down on Sarah's arm, fingers digging into the same bruises Jake saw days ago. Yanking her backward, hard enough, she cries out. She's not going anywhere with you freaks. Chains moves like violence given form. 300 pounds of former Marine crossing the threshold in one fluid step. His voice is granite and finality. Take your hand off her. Last chance. The apartment goes deadly silent except for Sarah's ragged breathing. Travis looks at Chains. Really looks at him for the first time. Sees the cold promise in his eyes. Behind them, through the open door, Travis can see the other wolves positioned strategically. Every one of them watching. Every one of them filming. He's outnumbered, outmatched. And for the first time in his life, Daddy's badge won't save him. Travis makes his choice. He shoves Sarah backward with both hands, sends her stumbling into the overturned coffee table, and lunges for the door. The slam comes fast. But Jake's boot is faster. Wedging into the gap with a crack of steel toe against wood, the door bounces back, and Travis is already moving, crossing the apartment in 3 strides toward the hall closet. He comes out swinging. The baseball bat arcs through the air, wild, drunk, aimed at Jake's head. Chains intercepts. His left forearm blocks the bat mid-swing, wood connecting with muscle and bone with a sound like a gunshot. His right hand moves in a blur, wrenches the bat from Travis's grip, tosses it aside where it clatters harmlessly against the wall. 3 seconds, maybe 4. No contest. Travis throws a punch. Sloppy. Telegraphed. Chains sidesteps, catches the arm, twists it behind Travis's back in a control hold. That's all military precision and zero excess force. Travis hits the floor face first, chains his knee in his back. Arm locked at an angle that promises pain if he struggles. The other wolves flood through the doorway, controlled chaos, each man with a role. Bull secures the bat, bags it as evidence. Wrench and Tiny position themselves between Travis and Sarah. Ghost stands in the doorway. Phone held high, capturing every angle, every moment, timestamp running in the corner of the screen. "Don't move," Chain says quietly into Travis's ear. "Don't give me a reason." Sarah sits on the floor where Travis shoved her, shaking so hard her teeth chatter. She looks up at Jake through her one good eye. The other swollen, completely shut now. And something breaks. The dam finally cracks. "Please," she sobs, the word ripping out of her like it's been trapped for years. "Please get me out of here. I can't do this anymore. I can't." Jake crosses to her, kneels down, keeps his movements slow and visible. That's all I needed to hear. He shrugs off his leather jacket, the Iron Wolf's patch visible on the back, and drapes it over her shoulders. It swallows her frame, warm and heavy and safe. Tiny helps her stand, gentle as handling glass. They guide her toward the door, past Travis, who's spitting threats into the carpet about lawsuits and charges, and his father's connections. Ghost keeps filming, every threat, every witness. Every second of Sarah choosing freedom. The clubhouse sits 15 miles outside town, reinforced concrete and steel, built by men who understand the value of defensible positions. They bring Sarah through the back entrance, away from curious eyes, into a room that's been prepared since Jake made the call 3 days ago. Clean sheets on the bed, deadbolt on the inside of the door, bathroom stocked with essentials, a sanctuary. Doc Miller waits inside, 62 years old with steady hands that patched Marines in Fallujah and now patch wounded brothers who trust hospitals about as far as they can throw them. He looks at Sarah with the clinical assessment of a man who's seen every type of damage humans inflict on each other. "I need to examine you," he says gently. "Document injuries. Make sure nothing requires immediate hospital intervention." You can say no. Sarah nods, silent, pulls Jake's jacket tighter around herself. Jake and Chains wait outside, door cracked, close enough to respond if she needs them. 20 minutes later, Doc emerges with a tablet full of photographs and notes, his jaw set in a way that means he's controlling rage. 3 cracked ribs, multiple contusions in various stages of healing. Defensive wounds on her forearms consistent with blocking strikes. Old fracture in her left wrist, healed incorrectly. Cigarette burns on her back and shoulders. At least a dozen, some months old. He pauses. This isn't a man who loses his temper. This is systematic. Inside, Sarah sits on the bed, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hasn't touched. When Jake returns, she starts talking. The words come slow at first, then faster, like a floodgate opening. 2 years. It started small. Jealousy disguised as love. Checking her phone, questioning where she'd been, escalated to pushing, to shoving, to that first slap she convinced herself was an accident. Travis's father made problems disappear, intimidated her co-workers, visited her at work in uniform to remind her of his power. She tried leaving once. 8 months ago, packed a bag and took a bus to her sister's place 3 hours away. Travis found her in 6 hours. Sergeant Holbrook had connections, resources, people who owed favors. Travis dragged her back, broke 2 of her fingers, and leaned close while she screamed. That's when he said, "Next time, I wouldn't survive it," Sarah whispers. That next time, they'd never find my body. The patrol cars arrive at 8:52 a.m. 4 of them, lights flashing but no sirens. Sergeant Dale Holbrook steps out of the lead vehicle. 3 deputies flanking him, all wearing the hard expressions of men used to compliance. Jake waits at the clubhouse gate, arms crossed. Chains and Bull positioned behind him. The rest of the wolves spread out along the fence line. Visible, present. Witnesses to whatever comes next. Holbrook is 56. Gray at the temples. 26 years of authority etched into every line of his face. He stops 10 feet from Jake, hand resting casually near his service weapon. I'm here for Sarah Bennett. My son's girlfriend. You're holding her against her will, which makes this kidnapping. Jake doesn't move. She walked out of that apartment voluntarily. She's here voluntarily. She can leave whenever she wants. She's been manipulated, confused. Travis called me. Said you threatened him. Assaulted him in his own home. Holbrook's voice hardens. You've got one chance to release her before I arrest every man here. Jake pulls a tablet from his back pocket. Ghost's tablet, cues up the video. He turns it toward Holbrook, hits play. The footage is crystal clear, audio perfect. Travis shoving Sarah. Travis grabbing the bat. Travis's hand clamped on her arm, her cry of pain. Sarah's face, beaten, bleeding, begging. Please get me out of here. Jake lets it play for 30 seconds, then pauses on a frame of Sarah's injuries. She's here voluntarily. And we have documentation of 2 years of felony abuse. Medical records, witness statements, photographic evidence of systematic brutality. Holbrook's face darkens, color rising in his cheeks. You're making a mistake. A serious mistake. You think you can come into my county and… The mistake was made years ago when you covered for your son. Jake cuts him off. Voice quiet but sharp as a blade. 6 other women. We found them. Complaints that disappeared. Hospital visits that got buried. Witnesses who suddenly changed their stories after visits from deputies. He steps closer. That badge doesn't make you untouchable. Not anymore. By noon, the entire town knows. Small towns are like that. Information spreading faster than fire. Every conversation at the grocery store and gas station carrying the news. The Iron Wolves took Sarah Bennett from Travis Holbrook. Sergeant's son. The bikers are making accusations. Rita from Rosie's diner becomes an unlikely general. Rallying servers from 3 different restaurants who'd seen Sarah's bruises, who'd whispered concerns but never reported, because who reports the sergeant's son to the sergeant? She stands in the diner at 2 p.m. with 8 women behind her, telling anyone who'll listen that they all saw. They all knew, and they stayed silent too long. By 3 p.m., Emily Parsons walks into the county clerk's office. 34 years old, high school English teacher, hands shaking as she fills out a formal statement. 3 years ago, Travis assaulted one of her students. 17-year-old girl who'd rejected his advances at a party. Emily had documented everything, taken the girl to make a report. Sergeant Holbrook personally visited the school, suggested the girl had been drinking, suggested pressing charges would ruin her college prospects, suggested everyone move on. The report disappeared. Emily kept copies. Karen Wu, ER nurse at County General for 12 years, violates hospital policy by pulling sealed records. 7 visits from Sarah Bennett in 2 years. Fractured wrist, concussion, bruised ribs, lacerations requiring stitches. Each time marked as accidental injuries. Each time, Sergeant Holbrook personally followed up with hospital administration, ensuring discretion, ensuring privacy, ensuring silence. Karen puts the records in a manila envelope and drives them to the clubhouse herself. But the town splits like a fault line cracking. The Holbrooks are prominent. 3rd-generation law enforcement, donations to Little League and the fire department, Christmas toy drives and scholarship funds. Mayor Patterson releases a statement supporting the sergeant, calling the accusations reckless and irresponsible. Business owners who depend on police goodwill stay quiet or defend Travis, say boys make mistakes, say innocent until proven guilty. Others, though, find their voices. The mechanic who'd seen Travis drag Sarah out of the shop by her hair. The landlord who'd heard screaming through apartment walls and been told to mind his business. The waitress from 2 towns over who'd dated Travis for 3 weeks before running. Amy Fletcher, reporter for the County Gazette, starts making calls, starts pulling threads, starts writing the story that should have been written years ago. Her editor warns her about liability, about powerful families, about career suicide. She writes anyway. Sergeant Holbrook fights back the only way he knows how. Tuesday morning, 3 wolves get pulled over within an hour of each other. Minor violations turned into extended roadside interrogations. Wednesday, building inspectors descend on the clubhouse, finding code violations that didn't exist last month. Thursday, Bull gets arrested for an outstanding warrant from 2003 that was supposedly cleared years ago. The message is clear. Back off or watch your lives get dismantled piece by piece. Friday afternoon, 2 deputies show up at the clubhouse with an arrest warrant for Sarah. Drug possession with intent to distribute. They found methamphetamine in her apartment, hidden in her bedroom closet, enough to qualify as a felony. Jake stands between them and the safe room. She hasn't been in that apartment for 5 days. You planted that. Prove it, the deputy says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Jake calls an emergency meeting that night, all 12 members present. We're outgunned. Holbrook controls law enforcement in this county. We need legal firepower, someone who can fight this from a position of actual authority. Chains leans back, arms crossed. I know someone. Rebecca Stone, JAG lawyer. Served with me in Iraq. Handled cases against officers who thought rank made them untouchable. She went civilian 5 years ago, civil rights law, takes cases other attorneys won't touch. He pulls out his phone. She owes me. I took shrapnel that was meant for her in Fallujah. Rebecca Stone arrives Saturday afternoon, driving a rental sedan from 2 states over, carrying 3 briefcases and a reputation for scorched earth litigation. She's 42, sharp-eyed, wearing a blazer that costs more than Jake's motorcycle, and she doesn't waste time with pleasantries. She spreads the evidence across the clubhouse table. Ghosts videos, medical records, witness statements, documentation of 6 other victims, the planted drug charge paperwork. She reads for 90 minutes straight, making notes, cross-referencing, building a case in real time. When she finally looks up, her expression is granite. This is bigger than one girl. This is systemic corruption, civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. Sergeant Holbrook has been running his own fiefdom for years. She closes the last folder. We don't just save Sarah. We burn the whole thing down. Rebecca works like a woman possessed. 18-hour days fueled by black coffee and righteous fury. She starts with Emily Parsons's student, Jessica Chen, now 20 years old and living 3 states away. Jessica agrees to testify, voice shaking over the phone as she recounts Travis cornering her at a party, his hands around her throat when she said no, Sergeant Holbrook showing up at her parents' house to explain how a rape accusation would destroy her future. Then comes victim number 2, Amanda Rodriguez, waitress from 2017, hospitalized with a ruptured spleen and broken jaw. She'd tried pressing charges. The case disappeared within 48 hours, and Amanda left town the day she was released from the hospital. Rebecca finds her in Oregon, working under a different name. Victim 3 is harder to locate because she's in witness protection, not from Travis, but from the consequences of trying to escape him. Melissa Grant testified against Travis in a restraining order hearing in 2019. 2 weeks later, her apartment burned down, officially ruled accidental. Federal marshals relocated her when it became clear local police couldn't or wouldn't protect her. The pattern crystallizes across Rebecca's investigation board. 6 women, 8 years. Complaints systematically buried. Victims either fleeing or silenced. Sergeant Holbrook wielded his badge like a weapon, threatening witnesses, pressuring prosecutors, ensuring his son faced 0 consequences. Rebecca files motions in federal court Monday morning. Civil rights violations under color of law, Allcourt, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to deprive citizens of constitutional protections. The FBI opens an investigation Tuesday afternoon, but federal cases take time, and Travis is out on bail, posting on social media about lying women and biker trash. making threats barely coded enough to stay legal. Wednesday night, someone spray paints "snitch" across Sarah's old apartment door. Thursday, Rita's car gets keyed in the diner parking lot. Friday evening, Travis drives past the clubhouse 3 times, slow, deliberate, letting them know he's watching. Jake doubles the guard rotation. Nobody goes anywhere alone, and Sarah hasn't left the safe room in 4 days, because the woman who finally found courage to escape is learning that escape doesn't mean safety. Not yet. Not while Travis still walks free. Travis unravels over 6 days, social media posts getting darker, more erratic, vodka bottles piling up in his apartment that he refuses to leave except to drive past places Sarah used to be. He blames her for everything. The federal investigation, his father's suspension, the town turning against him, the lawyer bills. The reporters camped outside his building. In his mind, if he can just talk to Sarah, just make her understand, just make her take it all back, everything returns to normal. Wednesday night, he gives police surveillance the slip, tells them he's going to bed at 10:15 p.m., climbs out a back window. 20 minutes later, he's been planning this for 3 days, studying the clubhouse perimeter on Google Maps, buying a Glock 19 from a guy who doesn't ask questions, drinking just enough whiskey for courage, but not enough to miss. The motion sensors trigger at 11:34 p.m. Ghost's security system lights up like a Christmas tree, alarms silent but screens showing a single figure approaching the east fence, bolt cutters in one hand, pistol in the other. Jake's on his feet instantly, radio in hand. Perimeter breach, east side, non-lethal response, secure and contain. The wolves move like they've trained for this. Because they have. Every night since Sarah arrived, Wrench and Tiny intercept Travis at the fence before he's through, disarm him with the efficiency of men who've done this in actual combat zones. Travis fights, drunk and desperate, gets one wild punch in before Bull drives him face first into the gravel, knee in his back, hands zip-tied behind him. 3 minutes from alarm to secured threat. The Glock lies in the dirt, safety off. Round chambered. Jake photographs everything, every angle. The bolt cutters, the weapon. Travis's face twisted with rage and panic. Ghost has it all on video, timestamp running, audio catching Travis screaming about Sarah, about making her pay, about finishing what he started. They call 911 at 11:39 p.m. County deputies arrive 12 minutes later, find Travis restrained but unharmed, murder weapon bagged as evidence. 12 witnesses with identical stories and video proof. Rebecca gets the call at midnight, listens to Jake's report, and her voice carries grim satisfaction. Attempted murder, armed trespass, violation of bail conditions. Federal prosecutors will love this. She pauses. No daddy can save him now. Amy Fletcher's article drops Sunday morning. Small town cop covered son's abuse. For years federal investigation reveals pattern of corruption. It hits the Associated Press wire by noon, trending on social media by evening, picked up by CNN and NBC by Monday morning. Suddenly the town is flooded with news vans. National reporters standing outside the courthouse and the police station, interviewing anyone willing to talk. The story has everything. Corrupt cops, abused women, outlaw bikers as unlikely heroes. Sergeant Dale Holbrook is suspended pending investigation Tuesday afternoon. Escorted from the building by Internal Affairs while cameras roll. 26 years of service reduced to a perp walk in front of the nation. Sarah watches it on the clubhouse television, hands shaking, and tells Rebecca she'll testify. I'm terrified, she admits. But if I don't, he wins. They all win. The wolves become her constant shadow, 3-man rotating protection detail every hour of every day. Chains drives her to Rebecca's office for prep sessions. Bull and Wrench accompany her to the courthouse for preliminary hearings. Ghost sweeps her path for threats, digital and physical. They're professionals. Unflinching, but also unexpectedly gentle. The way dangerous men can be when protecting something fragile. Jake hasn't left the clubhouse except for legal meetings in 8 days. Running on coffee and 3 hours of sleep. Coordinating security. Reviewing evidence. Ensuring Sarah has everything she needs. Thursday afternoon, she finds him in the main room at 2 a.m., going over Ghost's video footage for the 100th time, looking for anything they missed. "Jake," she says quietly from the doorway. He looks up, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. You could have called the cops that first day and walked away. Instead, you've put your club, your freedom, your whole life on the line for a stranger." Jake sets down the tablet, silent for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice carries 15 years of grief and regret. "I knew my sister. That's enough." Sarah's eyes fill with tears. "I wish I could have known her." "She would have liked you," Jake says. "She would have been proud you're fighting back." The courtroom is packed by 8:30 a.m., standing room only. Cameras prohibited but reporters filling notebooks at lightning speed. Sarah sits in the witness chair at 9:47 a.m. wearing a simple blue dress. Rebecca bought her, hands folded in her lap to hide the shaking. Jake sits front row, directly in her line of sight, steady as a lighthouse. Behind him, the iron wolves fill 3 benches, 12 men in leather and denim. Silent, present, unmoving, Travis sits at the defense table in a suit that doesn't hide the rage simmering beneath his surface. His lawyer, Martin Pierce, 60 years old and expensive, stands to cross-examine with the confidence of a man who's destroyed witnesses before. "Miss Bennett, isn't it true you voluntarily remained in a relationship with my client for 2 years? Sarah's voice is quiet but clear. "I was afraid to leave." "Afraid? Or perhaps you enjoyed the lifestyle my client provided? The apartment, the meals, the financial support?" Rebecca objects, judge sustains, but Pierce keeps pushing. "You never filed a police report, never sought a restraining order, never told family members. Doesn't that suggest the abuse you're alleging never actually occurred?" Sarah's hands grip the chair arms. "I tried filing a report once. His father is the sergeant. It disappeared." "Convenient excuse. Or perhaps you're fabricating these allegations because my client ended the relationship and you're seeking revenge?" Jake's hands ball into fists. Chains puts a warning hand on his shoulder. Rebecca stands, voice cutting through the courtroom like a sword. "Your Honor, I have medical records documenting Miss Bennett's injuries over 2 years. 7 ER visits, 3 fractures, cigarette burns, all while dating the defendant." She advances with a folder. "I have testimony from 6 other women documenting identical patterns of abuse by Travis Holbrook. All complaints mysteriously vanishing. I have video evidence of the defendant assaulting Miss Bennett in his apartment, and video of him attempting to breach the Iron Wolves clubhouse with a loaded firearm, stating his intent to finish what he started." She turns to Pierce. "Your client isn't a spurned lover. He's a predator whose father used his badge to enable years of violence." The courtroom erupts. Judge Harrison, stern woman in her 50s, slams the gavel. Rebecca presents evidence for 90 minutes. Medical records with timestamps. Ghost's videos, crystal clear, audio undeniable. Witness testimony from Amanda Rodriguez, from Jessica Chen. From nurses and teachers and women who'd been afraid to speak until now. When she finishes, the defense has nothing. Judge Harrison reviews the attempted murder charges, the bail violation, the new evidence. Her voice is final as a closing door. Bail is denied. The defendant poses a clear and present danger to Miss Bennett and the community. He will remain in custody pending trial. Travis's face transforms, civilization stripped away to show the monster underneath. As deputies move to escort him out, his eyes lock on Jake, pure hatred and promised violence. "This isn't over," he says, loud enough for the gallery to hear. Jake doesn't blink, doesn't react, just watches Travis disappear through the side door. In the back row, Sergeant Dale Holbrook sits alone, tie loosened, face gray. He watches his son being led away in handcuffs. Really sees him maybe for the first time. Sees past the excuses and the rationalizations and the father's desperate need to believe his boy is good. Something breaks in the old sergeant's expression. His shoulders slump. He covers his face with his hands, and his body shakes with silent sobs. The call comes Tuesday evening, 3 days after the hearing. Rebecca receives it first, listens, then looks at Jake with surprise. "Sergeant Holbrook wants to meet with you. Just you. Says he has information relevant to the federal case." Jake agrees to Rosie's diner, neutral ground, 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, the place where this started. Holbrook is already there when Jake arrives, sitting in the same booth where Jake first saw Sarah's bruises 3 weeks ago. The sergeant has aged 10 years in 2 weeks, gray hair turned white, face hollow, uniform replaced by civilian clothes that hang loose on a frame that's lost weight. Jake slides into the opposite seat. They sit in silence while Rita pours coffee, her expression making clear whose side she's on. When she leaves, Holbrook stares into his cup like it holds answers. I knew what he was. His voice is rough, scraped raw. Not at first. At first I thought it was just temper, just immaturity, just growing pains. Then the first girl came forward, Jessica Chen, and I told myself she was exaggerating. Teenagers are dramatic. Boys make mistakes. He looks up, eyes red-rimmed. The second girl, I knew. I absolutely knew. And I buried it anyway because he's my son. Jake says nothing, lets him talk. Amanda Rodriguez, Melissa Grant, 4 others before Sarah. Each time I told myself it was the last time, that Travis would learn, that he'd get help, that I could fix him. Holbrook's hands shake around the coffee cup. I used my badge to destroy evidence, intimidate witnesses, pressure prosecutors. I became exactly what I swore to stand against when I took the oath 26 years ago. He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a flash drive, slides it across the table. Everything, every report I buried, every witness I threatened, every piece of evidence I destroyed. Federal prosecutors get this. They'll have enough to bring charges against half the department for complicity. Jake looks at the drive, but doesn't touch it. Why now? Because I watched them take my son away in handcuffs and realized I'm the reason he became a monster. I gave him immunity, consequence-free violence, taught him that badge meant he was above the law. Holbrook's voice breaks. Will it help her? Sarah? Jake considers the question. It'll help build the case. Make sure he stays locked up. But Sarah? He shakes his head. Nothing helps what's already been done to her. She'll carry those scars forever. What about the next one? Holbrook asks quietly. Will it help the next girl? Jake picks up the flash drive, pockets it. It'll help the next one. Good. Holbrook stands, leaves money on the table for coffee he didn't drink. There won't be a next one. Not from him. I'll make sure of that, even if I have to testify against my own son to do it. 3 months later, winter settles over the town. First snow dusting the mountains on the day Travis Holbrook is sentenced. 8 years minimum in state prison, eligible for parole in 6 if he behaves, which his track record suggests is unlikely. The courtroom is packed again, but this time Sarah doesn't testify. She sits in the gallery between Jake and Rebecca, watching justice delivered in measured judicial tones. Sergeant Dale Holbrook resigned 2 months ago, facing federal charges for civil rights violations and obstruction of justice. His cooperation with prosecutors earned him a lighter sentence. 18 months with possibility of early release. But his career is over, his reputation destroyed, and he'll live the rest of his life knowing he enabled his son's violence. Sarah moved into a new apartment in November, second-floor walk-up on the north side of town where Travis never went. The Iron Wolves showed up with a truck full of furniture. Spent a Saturday assembling beds and hanging curtains and installing deadbolts that actually work. She's back at Rosie's diner 3 days a week. But different now. Stronger. Spine straightened by therapy sessions twice weekly. And the knowledge that she survived what was meant to break her. She smiles more, real smiles that reach her eyes. And when customers get too loud or move too fast, she doesn't flinch anymore. Just takes a breath, grounds herself, continues working. The support group meets Thursday evenings in the community center. Sarah's idea. Rebecca's legal expertise. Making it official. 6 women attended the first meeting, survivors of domestic violence who'd been silent too long. By week 8, attendance hit 15. They share stories, resources, phone numbers for therapists and lawyers and safe houses. Sarah leads with the quiet authority of someone who knows the path because she's walked it. The Iron Wolves partnered formally with the County Women's Shelter annual fundraiser ride scheduled for spring. Jake personally donated $10,000, money he'd been saving for a new bike. Decided Sarah's cause mattered more. The town sees the bikers differently now. Not outlaws lurking on the margins, but guardians who acted when others stayed silent. Rita keeps their coffee free. Shop owners wave when they ride past. Parents point them out to children as examples of standing up for what's right. Saturday morning, 6 months after that first coffee, Jake walks into Rosie's diner at 6:47 a.m. The bell chimes the same as always. But everything else has changed. He takes the booth by the window, back to the wall, and Sarah appears with the coffee pot, moving with confidence now. No hesitation, no fear. Her hands are steady as she pours, and when she smiles, it's genuine. Reaches all the way to eyes that have learned to trust again. "Black, right?" she says. And there's warmth in her voice that wasn't there before. Jake nods. They've shared coffee dozens of times over 6 months, conversations about therapy and court dates and the slow process of rebuilding a life. But some things still need saying. "Thank you," Sarah says quietly, setting the pot down. "I know I've said it before, but it still doesn't feel like enough." Jake looks at her, sees the woman she's becoming, strong and purposeful, and alive in ways that matter. "My sister would have liked you. Emily. She would have been proud of what you're doing, helping other women find their way out." Sarah's eyes glisten, but she blinks the tears back, smiles instead. "I hope I get to make her proud." Outside, 12 motorcycles sit lined up in the parking lot, chrome gleaming in morning light. Each bike carries a rider wearing a new patch beside the Iron Wolves logo. Emily's Wings, a foundation formally registered last month, dedicated to supporting domestic violence survivors and funding intervention programs. Jake drinks his coffee slow, leaves a generous tip, and walks out to where his brothers wait. They ride together through town, engines rumbling in harmony. Past the elementary school where Emily used to teach 3rd grade 15 years ago. Jake thinks about promises kept, about second chances earned through action, about the family you choose when blood family fails. Chains pulls up beside him at a stoplight, nods toward the patch on Jake's jacket. "She'd be proud, brother." Jake nods, thinking about Emily's last words in that hospital room. Her final request whispered through pain and tubes and the certainty of dying too young. "Don't wait. Someone needs you." The light turns green and they ride. That evening, Sarah stands in the community center before 23 women. Some familiar faces, some new. A young woman in the back row wears long sleeves despite the heated room. And Sarah recognizes the pattern, sees the careful makeup that doesn't quite hide the bruise on her jaw, notices how she sits near the exit like she might need to run. After the meeting, Sarah approaches slowly, non-threatening, offers coffee and a phone number and the words that saved her life. "You don't have to do this alone. We can help, but only if you want it." The woman's hands shake around the coffee cup, and Sarah sees herself 6 months ago, terrified and trapped, and certain there was no way out. "I don't know if I can leave," the woman whispers. Sarah sits beside her, close enough to offer comfort but far enough to respect boundaries. "I didn't think I could either. Then someone who didn't even know me decided my life mattered enough to risk everything." She pulls out her phone, shows a photo of 12 bikers standing guard outside her new apartment the day she moved in. That's family. Not the one you're born into, but the one that shows up when you need them most. The woman looks at the photo, then at Sarah, and something shifts in her expression. Hope, fragile and uncertain, but present. "Can you help me?" "Yes," Sarah says, "and I know exactly who to call." The circle completes. The protection continues. Emily's wings spread wider.